One of the weirdest things to see happen in this world where anime and manga are constantly growing in popularity is watching a somewhat unknown series explode into an international phenomenon. One that you were in on before that explosion of new fans. I remember reading the first 2 volumes of Jujutsu Kaisen when those chapters were dropping and saying, if this gets a good anime, it'll likely be a Bleach for the new generation, just wait on it. And while it might not have hit Bleach levels, partially because Bleach just fucking came back, I was right on how popular it was going to become. When Chainsaw Man started dropping, I saw it was by the author of Fire Punch and had to tap in immediately. Reading those first 10 to 15 chapters and saying, if this is allowed to cook, it'll become a legend in Jump, bet on it. And regardless of what you think of Chainsaw Man or its second part, that kind of did come true. And it's just always interesting to see happen from the inside looking out. But the one I felt this way the most about, the series I feel like I saw go from 0 to the top, outside of Japan obviously, was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the legendary long-running manga by the time vampire himself, Hirohiko Araki. A series that's changed manga, anime, culture, the fucking world itself. And in the context of this video, me, the manga that opened my eyes to a whole new world. The series that made me who I am today. The story that built this channel. It all comes back to JoJo. And just a heads up right now, this video won't be my usual deep retrospective dive, but more like my One Piece video from a while ago. This shit's barely even scripted, I'm kinda just riffing off the dome. But JoJo's special, it's like a 100k sub deep dive event. So instead, I kinda just wanna talk about how finding an, at least at the time, unknown manga put me on a path in life that I kind of love, and what it was like watching JoJo become, well, JoJo. So first up, let's go back in time real quick to 2011. One thing I've talked about plenty now in videos is how I loved anime as a young kid, despite not even really knowing what anime was. But as I got older and grew up in both inner city Louisville, Kentucky, and then the deeper south on the Tennessee border, watching anime got you labeled as one of those gay Japan freaks. And the peer pressure was heavy to not engage with anything anime at all. Like I said in my Full Metal though, I got over that around my junior year and started to become the weeb I am now, going into senior year of school, no longer giving a fuck what anyone thought and just kind of vibing. Now, I know high school was hell for a lot of people, and yeah, shit was usually pretty lame, but my school was weird, dude. Living in this small-ass southern town, my graduating class had 100 kids total in it, in a town of 2,000 people max. So things were considerably laid back. And on top of that, it was the school's longtime principal's last year before retirement. Meaning, bro didn't give a shit about anything, it was a free-for-all. And I spent my entire school day either skipping class to hang out with friends/girls, sneaking out the back door at lunch to go smoke blunts with the boys and get secret McDonald's, or in an empty computer room taking online classes with no teacher supervision. So I spent that time just watching anime on my shitty iPhone, iPhone 4 probably? Discovering new shows like Gurren Lagann, Evangelion, Fooly Cooly, watching them all on this small ass screen. David Lynch should have shot my ass. And, as I am now almost 30 and not ashamed to admit, I was a dipshit edgy ass 17-year-old. And what did most chronically online edgy dipshit teens of the 2000s to early 2010s do? Browse 4chan. Now, ignoring any and all arguments about 4chan and using it when you're a kid versus an adult, at the time I was active on both V and A usually. One random day in school while scrolling my phone on there, I saw a thread about a new trailer for an upcoming anime release. The thread going crazy with either hype or skepticism. This, of course, being a trailer for JoJo Season 1, the season that would adapt both parts 1 and 2. Now, looking back, I think I was more interested in checking it out based on all the dumbass quotes and memes people were posting, but I didn't think much more about it after I left the thread. Hopped down a few months later and a couple of episodes were out. I saw more posts about them and remembered, oh yeah, that thing. Well, it's 8 AM, I'm high from taking morning bong rips and trapped in an empty class, so let's watch it. And, my life changed. It's hard to explain what it was like watching JoJo with the fan torrents in 2012. And within the, first 5 minutes, Dio hops out the cart and drop kicks Danny, which had like 17-year-old me cracking up at the absurdity of it. Then the episodes having things like Aztec vampire masks, Vampire Jack the Ripper, the rugby time skip where both Jonathan and Dio got really buff, Dio stealing Erina's first kiss and her wiping her mouth out with dirt. Like, it was a fast-paced, non-stop assault of the funniest shit I'd ever seen. But all while having this super cool sense of style, these bright colors and wild poses, over-the-top voice acting and plot points that just happened out of nowhere and then we moved on from with the quickness. All topped off with the outro song being motherfucking Roundabout by Yes, one of Teenage Slime's most favorite songs. Like, no lie, I was hooked deep. Dio putting on the mask in the Burning Mansion fight is forever burned in my brain. That "Goodbye, JoJo" is something I quote in my daily life still in 2025. But the thing about watching JoJo in 2012 with no real knowledge of it is that I started to notice things. Dio being named Dio was one that I didn't think too much about. But then Will Zappelli shows up and introduces not only the Ripple, but that he was trained by a dude named Tom Petty. And at that second while watching in class, I went, wait, what? Being an emo goth boy stoner teenager who was born when both parents were 16 and 17 each, music was and still is a huge part of who I am. I've listened to all genres from all time periods since birth, basically. It's why I put the song names on the screen, because music is so fucking important to me. And watching this goofy ass anime introduce Tom Petty, Robert E.O. Speedwagon, Dyer and Straits, I was like, alright, well what the fuck is going on here? Which of course just made me want to watch more. Now, one of the lost things about torrenting anime in the older days was the varying quality of both subs and the episode rips themselves. Sometimes it was straight up just a recording from a TV when the episode was live. Sometimes it was 8 chopped up shitty 360p YouTube clips of a whole episode stitched together to make a single file. Ain't like today where everything has a 1080p download 1 hour after release. And the JoJo episodes I was watching had commercials in them, but only commercials for JoJo related things, like figures, art expos, video games, and the manga itself. And I was fucking confused. Here I was watching Jonathan learning about the ripple, a breathing technique to go fight Dio in the 1800s. But this commercial was for a figure named Dio version Black, in all caps, who looked super different from the Dio I knew. And then after that, a follow-up commercial for Purple Haze, who looked like, well, a stand from part 5, but that was a thing I had no clue existed, along with the fact it was blatantly named Purple Haze, which as a young stoner kid had me soy-facing. I kept watching and saw more of these ads, and eventually a commercial for JoJo's All-Star Battle on PS3 popped up. It was still a few months away, so character trailers were still dropping to show who was gonna be on the roster. Me seeing these people and going, who the fuck are any of you? But there's Jonathan and Dio, so this is all connected somehow. And at this point, I was likely in the battle tendency episodes, but my curiosity was unstoppable. I couldn't wait any longer, and I started to look online about what the fuck was up with JoJo. My at the time and still to this day best friend Jesse was also getting into JoJo just as much as me, and was already doing that deep dive. So we just talked back and forth about whatever stands seemed to be, how they were all named after bands, after songs we liked. It was like discovering this whole endless ocean of the coolest shit ever, dude. And now, having watched all of the anime and no longer being able to contain myself for what was next, knowing that a part 3 did exist and it was about to change everything up, I did something I had never done before. Something I had kinda made fun of up to that point as being the inferior art form, the boring option. But I had to know. So in 2013, I hopped online and found fan scans of JoJo Part 3. And for the first time ever, I really sat down and read a manga. Going back a little further to when I was a kid, like probably 8 or so, I remember walking around Books A Million with my grandma. She was off getting a coffee and looking at true crime novels, so I wandered over to the kids' stuff. And next to that was a small but noticeable manga shelf. In my One Piece video that's just like this one, I talked about how around this time, like tons of you I'm sure, I was up late in bed when I was supposed to be asleep watching Toonami and Adult Swim, being confused but intrigued by shit like Bebop, Yu Yu, Inuyasha, the 1 AM bangers of the 2000s. So when I saw this manga shelf, I realized this was that, but as books. Not really getting the concept, of course, about what a manga was, but picking some up and flipping through them. That was my only real exposure to manga up until all of these years later, where I was jumping right into the deep end with 2012 JoJo fan scans, which, are famously infamous. The Duwang scans, as they're so lovingly called. For those who don't know, since I think these are largely just gone now, JoJo scans used to be, shit. Outside of the scan quality itself going all the way from average to, they just took a picture of the page and wrote words over the text bubbles, the translations themselves were dog shit. Part 4 alone has tons of classic lines in those original scans. Get a feeling so complicated, make everybody happy, and the meme itself, what a beautiful duang, choo choo. And looking back on them now with fond memories, these are absolutely hilarious. But goddamn, on a first time read, that shit is rough. Like, not only does it just absorb the seriousness right out of a fight, but in some cases, it kinda ruined the fights themselves. Part 4 was one thing, but Part 5 in the original scans was kind of just completely fucked. Not only did it have awful machine translated ass dialogue through the whole part pretty much, the final big fight of Part 5 involves body swapping, the cast and main villain all jumping around in who they're controlling during the climax. And the translations just basically didn't explain that. So you're reading them going, I don't, huh? Because now Diavolo is just helping them, but not really. From context clues, you could figure out what Gold Experience Requiem was doing, but if you were trying to go by dialogue, this shit was an enigma. I mean, why do you think King Crimson's "It Just Works" became a meme? It's not because his power is actually that complicated or hard to understand, it's because these old translations didn't give a fuck about explaining it and just moved on. Those scans not explaining the body swapping is so fucking funny. Like, why is Polnareff in a turtle now? I don't understand. What did I miss? Okay, the part's over, I guess. Never mind. Part 6 and 7 thankfully were pretty solid if I remember right. Steel Ball Run especially, it's always had the royal treatment. But all of that aside, the reason I kept pushing through these awful scans, the reason I kept talking non-stop to my friends and online in general about JoJo, wasn't even so much for the plot at that time, but much, much more about the art. A type of style that I, someone who had never really read manga before, could never have imagined. It's impossible to watch parts 1 and 2 and not notice the posing, the use of color and general overall style the characters had. It was loudly flamboyant and fun in a way I was not used to. But when I got over to the manga and Araki introduced stands, the ghost beings that would become the new power system in the series to replace the Ripple, my eyes opened to a whole ass new world. Because in the most Captain Obvious statement of all time, Hirohiko Araki's art was and is unlike anything I had ever seen. JoJo is a series about beating the shit out of someone, be it from punches or the absolute weirdest ability you've ever seen in fiction. But the way Araki would draw those fights, the way he would grow over each part in his moment-to-moment art and refine his style time and time again, legitimately changed me. Up to this point, fights in a manga, and honestly manga in general, didn't interest me because if you could see them move and in color, then it was likely better, right? Why imagine a fight in your head based on pictures if you could just fucking watch it animated? And after reading part 3 and largely part 4, my brain did a total 180. Now wanting more to see how Araki would draw the upcoming fights and the characters in them, how he would pose the stands, how violent and gross the powers could get, and of course, the names he would use for them. Like, that time of reading parts 3 through 7 are some of my most fond memories because back then, it felt like each page was brand new and totally unique. Like any and everything could just happen and it would somehow make total sense. Never being able to predict what was coming up, doing it all while looking cooler than almost anything I had ever seen. Now, around this same time as I was reading the whole series, All-Star Battle, like I had said, was announced and getting trailers. And man, I must have watched each one of those over and over and over and over. Getting to hear Gyro with voice acting, seeing Giorno's slow motion punch on Bruno as a special, Joseph doing his secret Joestar escape technique. Like, yeah, as a fighting game, ASB is kinda ass, but as a JoJo fan service game, holy shit, it was calling to me. I ended up buying a PS3 and importing a copy of the game from Japan in like 2013. Shit cost me like 90 bucks. Still got it too. Came with this DLC code for David Bowie Kira that was packaged in Hayato's face opening from Heaven's Door, which is probably the coolest DLC code ever. The game itself had its issues. The campaign battery system was ass, but being able to play as a Funny Valentine against Johnny pretty much made up for any problem I could have. And all it did really was deepen my love for JoJo, these characters and their art, the world and its story connecting them all together. It was becoming, and still likely is, my most favorite series of all time. Araki's art is obviously nothing I need to try and prop up. Bro has been featured in art museums across the world, had crossovers with famous designer brands like Gucci. Bro is a staple of art in the modern era as much as fucking Andy Warhol was before him. But as a kid in high school back in 2012 to 2013, when manga itself was so much more under the radar to both me and most other Americans, it created a path of appreciation for manga and art overall that I never had before. Both watching the anime and then reading the manga, you could obviously see Araki's artistic transition between parts, and looking back at stuff like Cool Shock BT, Gorgeous Irene, or Bow, there was always an interesting sense of flair and style. Like before the posing became known as what it is today, it had always been a part of his artistic process from minute one. Phantom Blood starting JoJo in the 80s with the biggest, buffest dudes doing the craziest shit. Fist of the North Star boxing each other out with real-ass shonen combat, combined alongside the same characters outlandishly posing, their human anatomy making no goddamn sense. And now in 2025 with the JoJo lands, as most of you know, that style has 180'd in direction. Him cutting the buffness out and replacing it with slender body types. Much more beautiful faces and a large focus on their general style being more important than how they would fit in a traditional shonen series. All the while making sure those signature poses stay fresh, fun, and new. This is a thing people online argue about, some preferring that older style to the new, or maybe even the style in the middle where Josuke was going from buff to slim. But I personally love all of it, from A to Z. Araki's art has never once missed for me, and the fact that he himself loves drawing so much means we get so many beautiful pieces of art to just look at. Art book after art expo. Without just repeating myself and tons of others online, there's no one else out there that can do it like the immortal Lord himself. After reading parts 3 through 7 and the 8 total chapters of part 8 that were out at the time, wild that it wouldn't be until another 10 years after until JoJo Leon actually ended. But I realized a whole undiscovered world was out there and open to me. The world of manga. The series I'd heard about online but never really took the time to even look at, like Berserk, now popping into my memory. And I was finally willing to give them a shot, expanding my horizons and reading tons of random shit. Funnily enough, the first thing I actually read after JoJo was fucking Ichi the Killer, which is one of the things I absolutely would never recommend to a new manga fan or just most people in general. Kinda loved it though. Get me more popular and I can do a video on it without worrying about monetization, eh? I started trying out things that before I never would have even considered. Like, I had seen some of the Bleach anime at this point and thought, this anime's not that great, but that manga art looks really cool, so maybe it's worth reading. And guess what? It was. I fucking loved Bleach. My mind was open and I just kept reading. My collection kept growing and eventually this channel started. And no matter how much I may have changed as a person during all of this, JoJo was always there in the background, being the foundation that built it all. Going from a handful of people back in 2012 yelling about a manga that no one gave a shit about to here in 2025, where new JoJo news is like a worldwide holiday at this point. And yeah, duh, it's always been popular in Japan and in some other places like Italy as well. But after 6 adapted parts of the anime and a coming 7th, along with a full English manga release underway, it's been unreal to see it all happen. Outside of the absolute copyright nightmare that the names are, bringing JoJo to the West was something I never thought would work out, let alone take off like it has. Shout out the author of that comic Desu because he also thought that as well. JoJo is a series with a weird plot that doesn't care to go extremely left field and then quickly move on. It's hyper flamboyant. Like, it is silly as fuck to not admit that this series is full of casual homoeroticism, even if it's never actually the focus at all. It's long as hell, like even broken down into parts, it's technically well over 100 volumes long. And unfortunately, it's actually illegal to skip parts. Like, if you do it, I'll come to your house and shoot your legs. So you have to start at part 1, no skipping allowed. And with it having started in the 80s, it's dated in tons of ways. Shout out Stroheim. But despite all of that, somehow JoJo pushed through those barriers, becoming a landmark for anime and manga not just in Japan, but all across the world. I still can't really believe it's been almost fully adapted into English officially by Viz. I never thought it would legit work. Yeah, the name changes to avoid copyright is silly, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I can get past that and just go, I know who this is, it's fine. But when it comes to actually collecting them, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of their hardcover releases. Like I get it, it's much smarter from a business perspective, but I would have preferred to get each individual volume because I love these goddamn covers so much. Which 130 volumes is a big commitment, but I don't care, do it anyway. Also, these fucking text blocks suck ass. Redraw the panels or just add small subtitles and leave the kanji like every other publisher, you fucks. Don't just block this whole ass artwork. That sucks. And while it's on my mind, the popularity of JoJo worldwide for sure is in large part due to its anime. And despite me talking so much about my experience with the manga, the anime is what led me here. And overall, I still love the anime to this day. I think each part has things that are both done better or worse than the manga itself, but it's never outright been bad. Parts 1 and 2 do the most with the least, like Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency in the manga, but last past you. So I think the anime is actually a pretty great entry point into the series. Stardust Crusaders is kinda dealer's choice. Some fights in part 3 I kinda just find boring in both the manga and anime, but at least in the manga, you can move past them a little faster than you could a 30-minute episode. And everything after Iggy vs. Pet Shop, I kinda 100% prefer the manga for. Some of Araki's hardest shonen battle shots ever come from Jotaro vs. Dio and all the things leading up to it, so I think you should probably read the ending of Stardust Crusaders. Diamond is Not Crash is my second favorite part in the manga, and for its anime, I love it. Yeah, some actual shots of animation or character art is weaker compared to part 3, but the overall style they went for and the general aesthetic that really matches Araki's really makes it up for me. That pink sky and the super bright pastel palette everything's colored in whips ass. Golden Wind I was the most harsh on from the manga, largely still going back to that original shit-ass translation read. So with my expectations having been low for part 5 animated, I walked out still thinking that it's the best animated part overall yet. Taking a story that, while not being bad, gives it more room to breathe and for you to invest yourself in, letting you hang out a bit more with the crew before its collapse later on. I had always loved Bruno and Mista, but now Abakio and Narentia are right up there too. Giorno is still a bit bland though, don't dislike him at all, it just is what it is. Part 6 animated was weird. Outside of the fucked up Netflix release, it just kinda felt pretty lackluster compared to the visually unique part 4 or the super refined part 5. Like, I don't know, the pacing just didn't feel great in it, a lot of the animation just seemed a little like it's really hard for me to kinda describe in words how I felt while watching it, but that hype I usually have when I'm sitting down for JoJo never came when I was watching part 6. And I know I'm not alone here, I've seen other people online say the same type of thing, so even if you did like it, I think there was something different here that they did that didn't work out as well. Oh, and I had said earlier that the anime is known for its real-ass famous songs used in outros, Roundabout being the first before Walk Like an Egyptian, Last Train Home, Savage Garden, and a motherfucking Jodeci, usually having super cool visuals to go along with the catchy-ass tunes. And despite Distant Dreamer by Duffy being a pretty consistently played song in my playlist, it's a legit banger, the outro visuals themselves are the worst ones yet, and I am still mad about it. I expected the second half of the series to do something on this beach, but nope, sure didn't. The last few episodes do bring it back around though. Go watch those if you haven't yet, like so many people I know also still haven't. Netflix really fucked this one up. The anime was also the source for tons of memes. To be continued, the Pillarmen theme. Oh, that's a baseball! The crew in part 5 stomping the shit out of this dude. Like, it's a legacy built and thrived off of early Facebook-ass meme culture. Shout out that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Facebook group. It was full of thousands of fans who were militant as fuck about JoJo. If you joined and said, hey, I'm a new fan who just watched the anime and wanted to talk about it, a dude with an Alucard profile pic would show up and say, read the manga while calling you a slur. Wild times. In 2013, I also was a hardcore read the manga soldier, but in 2025, do whatever, bro. Just be sure to go and look at Araki's artwork at some point, because this shit ain't nothing like this shit right here. This is the stuff. Part 7 anime will likely happen soon, and I'm sure 8 will be down the road, so we'll see how they go. JoJolion, I could end up enjoying more animated possibly because I have some thoughts about that part. But Steel Ball Run is forever gonna be a top 3 manga for me, so I don't think it could ever be topped. So with all of this said, obviously this channel was built around manga. 90% of my videos have been about manga. Even if a series has an anime, the fun I have here is usually based on that original artwork, the way an artist created and developed it, how it speaks to me in both a personal level and on a raw edgelord level. And all of this love, this big ass manga room I have now with a comic room beside it, comes back to JoJo, to the way Araki created something that in the 80s, the 2010s, and now still in 2025 is unlike anything else. Even when a new series pops up and tries to kind of match that Araki bizarre flow, you'll never live up to the master himself. No one's brain is wired just like his. You never know what to expect next as you're reading, what new weird-ass power and cool-ass stand design he will introduce, or what wild direction the plot could take on a total moment's notice. And this isn't even me saying the story is perfect. Each part has something you could bring up and criticize. I'm absolutely not one of those people who gets weirdly defensive if you bring up those things. Some people on here are way too willing to dive in front of a bullet that wasn't even aimed at them for Araki. But when it comes to those same critiques, the Araki forgot moments and the plot holes, I could honestly not give any less of a shit than I do now. Yeah, some parts are weaker than others in my eyes, but the collective whole, the second-to-second bizarre adventure, is just too fantastic, too beautiful to stop me from ever giving it a 10 out of 10. Reading JoJo legit changed me for the better, because all of this time later, I absolutely would not have got into manga like I did. Tons of stories I'd probably just miss or not appreciate it enough due to them getting a bad adaptation. And brother, I am just so grateful to Araki for this series. From part 9 now and into forever, I'll follow Araki into the JoJo lands until one of us is dead, likely me because bro has been alive since the 14th century. I know this video was kinda just rambling about JoJo and how it's pertained to me, and there's a lot more I could say that other people have also said on here. So if anything, maybe this can at least let you look back and remember the series that got you here. The manga or anime that pulled you into a whole ass world that you're still a part of today. Treasure that shit. And even if some online loser says it's mid, who cares? Fuck them. Just have fun. Let me know below what your actual favorite series is. I'd love to talk about it maybe. Maybe I've already read it and am planning to do a video on it. Who knows? Anyway, see you next time.